very much, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, Sir Gary. And for the record, I must declare that I have an interest as a member of Unite the Union, chair of the Unite Parliamentary Group. I'm also members of the RMT Parliamentary Group and the ASLEF Parliamentary Group, and I'm also a member of the Transport Select Committee. Thank you. For several years, industry organisations like the Railway Industry Association, trades unions and manufacturers have urged timely action to prevent significant job losses in rail manufacturing here in the UK. The industry employs over 30,000 people in the United Kingdom and contributes at least £1.8 billion in gross value added annually. It's currently facing a very dangerous, indeed critical situation, and I know the Minister, who formerly was chair of the Transport Select Committee, is very familiar with the situation. Indeed, I'm fully aware, because I've engaged with him on a number of occasions recently and during the course of the Select Committee. He understands the nature of the problem. In December of last year, Sir Gary, I raised an urgent question following evidence from Nick Crossfield, who's Alstrom's managing director, Alstrom based in Derby, who'd given evidence to the Transport Select Committee. And he impressed on the committee the need for urgent action being required from the government to expedite the bidding process for new British manufactured trains. It's now 4 months later, and it's clear the government has been too slow to prevent potential job losses at the Derby train manufacturer. Similarly, Sir Gary, I met with workers at the Hitachi train manufacturing factory, which is in Newton Aycliffe. It's actually next door to my Easton constituency, also members of Unite the Union. And they're warned that we could see redundancies as early as June this year if the government continue to drag its heels on extending the contract to build further trains for the West Coast Main Line. I must point out, by way of background, that British Railways are rooted in the northeast of England. The Stockton and Darlington Railway was inaugurated in 1825. Indeed, it was the world's first passenger railway. It also linked the coal mines near Shildon in County Durham to the River Tees at Stockton, facilitating coal exports from Teesport. The Stockton and Darlington Railway's success, alongside growing demand for transport, improved the network, spurred the development of a national railway network. Indeed, the railways transformed Britain, enabling all social classes to travel further, and the network was developed to move coal from thriving collieries in County Durham to global markets. County Durham continues, however, to struggle with the legacy of the loss of its coal industry, with limited skilled employment due to insufficient investment and levelling up efforts, alongside a lack of a coherent industrial strategy under successive Conservative governments. In 2015, Hitachi opened their plant in County Durham, bringing skilled jobs to the region, reviving the North East's rail manufacturing tradition after 90 years. There are 750 skilled jobs at Hitachi and about 1,500 in the supply chain, and they are really fundamental to the success of the local economy. I might say today, the excellent Sheffield Hallam University have released its third report, The State of the Coalfields in 2024, evidencing a lack of jobs and businesses in the former coalfields despite recent growth. Job density in coalfields is only 57 employee jobs per 100 working age residents, and that compares with a national average of 73 jobs and 88 per 100 in major regional centres. So there's a long way to go. There is a disparity there. This new report from Sheffield Hallam illustrates as clear as day the ongoing struggle for prosperity in former coalfield communities. I'll give way to my honourable friend.
Would my honourable friend also agree? It's not just about the number of jobs that Hitachi have brought to the region, but the improvement in the skill base, because they are training apprentices and increasing the skill base locally by investments in higher education and others, which, again, not only helps Hitachi, but actually helps the regional economy.
Absolutely, it's an excellent point that my honourable friend makes. It's the broader benefits to the economy, and indeed the loss of rail manufacturing in both County Durham and in Derbyshire would devastate the respective regional economies and threaten British rail manufacturing. Alstom, Hitachi, Siemens and CAF remain the sole train manufacturers in the UK. And a similar situation arose with the steel industry. It would seem to a reasonable person to be illogical for the government to permit the UK to lose its capacity to build trains, especially as our existing network is in need of modernisation. I know that the Minister and I have fenced about the age of the rolling stock and the age of trains, but the UK still operates trains built before privatisation, with the average age on the Chiltern line estimated at 30 years old. That was in March of last year, and that was from the Office of Road and Rail report. Additionally, nearly half of all operators use trains that are over 22 years old. And the Railway Industry Association have urged the government to upgrade or replace approximately 2,600 vehicles by 2030 and renew around 1,650 diesel trains, which will be 35 years old after 2030. The industry-wide consensus is that our rolling stock is outdated and inefficient. Therefore, my question to the Minister is, why isn't the government protecting British rail manufacturing, especially given the rising demand for new trains, to enhance the passenger experience and to meet our net zero targets? In relation to our environmental targets, all 2,898 diesel and 912 bimodal trains in the UK emit CO2 and nitrogen oxides, with nitrous oxide, that's N2O, having various health impacts and being up to 280 times more potent than CO2 in warming the planet over a 20-year period. That's according to the latest IPCC reports to the United Nations. To achieve net zero by 2050, a solution must be found to replace diesel trains used by 14 operators currently, especially since only 38% of the network is currently electrified. Sir Gary, it's inconceivable to my constituents who travel on unreliable second-hand ScotRail Sprinter trains, no offence to my honourable friend from Scotland, built in the 1980s. While the rolling stock company's profits are sky high, and while our UK-based rail manufacturers are crying out for orders, taxpayers are forced to travel on substandard trains purchased with government funds, while subsidies remain at twice pre-pandemic levels. This system is inefficient and does not serve the taxpayer or the travelling public. There are needless links in the chain. The government should streamline the system by directly purchasing trains and bypassing the Roscoes. Indeed, RMT President Alex Gordon and General Secretary Mick Lynch have been very vociferous, voicing concerns about leasing costs, which have risen by over 30% over the past 5 years, while rail industry staff costs have remained static. A decade ago, leasing rolling stock accounted for about 13% of train operating companies' costs. Today, Sir Gary, it accounts for 25% for a quarter. I'd like to ask the Minister if he thinks that is fair, and is this an area where the government are protecting the profits when other areas of their network, including the staffing elements, are facing quite dramatic cuts? Clearly, there's something wrong with the way we procure rolling stock in Britain. Despite needing modern, carbon-neutral and sustainable trains, the government has ignored warnings both from Alstom and Hitachi. And the Rail Industry Association warned the government that recent administrations are a canary in the coal mine before the potential decimation of train manufacturing in the United Kingdom. Unite the Union warned the industry's performance relies heavily on Alstom Transport and Hitachi Rail, which hold 55.3% of market share. The industry's fate is dependent on key players like Hitachi and Alstom. However, recent forecasts indicate a bleak outlook, with revenues projected to decline at a rate of 8.1% annually over the next 5 years. So Hitachi and Alstom face challenges as their order books require clearing past orders before they can commence construction in setting up production lines for the HS2 trains, which are currently 18 to 24 months behind schedule. Government intervention must go beyond rhetoric to provide tangible support to the industry. I may say, Sir Gary, we're not asking for a bailout, just a commitment to honouring existing contracts and to establish a sensible industrial strategy for the industry. Beyond extending existing contracts, a focused industrial strategy is imperative. And there has been research that's been conducted by Make UK that reveals 99% of manufacturers support the need for an industrial strategy. 6 in 10 cite the lack of an industrial strategy as a factor affecting growth in the manufacturing industry. 87% believe a strategy would provide their businesses with a better long-term vision on which to plan investment and future employment plans. So to prevent another Alstom or Hitachi scenario, we must reassure the industry that the government is prioritising its interests. I'm hopeful the Minister is going to give us some positive news, but the consequences of inaction are dire. Jobs and livelihoods are at risk, and it's time now for some decisive action. The industry requires a steady stream of orders to sustain manufacturing and maintenance bases, alongside a proactive approach to replacing retiring engineers. We must abandon costly leasing, opt for direct purchases through government procurement to bolster UK train manufacturing. UK train manufacturing must be central to a long-term rail and industrial strategy, driving economic growth, innovation and meeting our future transport needs. Thank you.